And here we have it from the Council on Foreign Relations.org. What is the liberal world order?
Set up in what, 47, 49? Right
From
after World War II,
disasters to deadly diseases to wars, the world can be a turbulent, even chaotic place. But around 75 years ago, a new system was imagined to temper this turbulence and improve the lives of many. It is called the liberal world order.
This is so dystopian.
It is a liberal system in the sense that it operates on rules that are, in theory, applied to each country equally, and that it encourages each country to be democratic and to open its economy to the rest of the world. It is a global system in that every country around the world is encouraged to join and follow those rules, even if some do not. And it is a system.
And what happens to those that do not?
Dude, if you put the Helldivers music behind that, it would fit perfectly.
It is.
That's what I'm saying. And look at what it says. It says right there, after World War II. And it all began. And that's why I just found it really odd, because Joe Biden was talking about something completely different. And for some reason, he just decided to throw it in there. And by the way, you know, I met with the top secret general who told me that right after World War II, that's when the liberal world order began. And I'm just like, well, what was it before that? You know, like, or what was...
It was multipolar. They had the League of Nations, which was an attempt at like a UN, but it was multipolar in that Germany was uncontrollable. They were building up their... So after World War II, they were like, never again are we going to let a country build up its military and sneak attack and take over France. So they built this super secretive, aggressive military-industrial complex. They called it a New World Order. They set up Israel in 49, I think, 47, 49.
47 into 48. Yeah.
Right after they said, as part of this construction of this order, they instantiated Israel, and the mandate for Palestine had been, the British mandate had been set up. And there it is. Now they want to kind of evolve it into some new one, and they were never clear about what it's going to be. So everyone's
you know where they really lost it, though, and the reason it's falling apart is because they wanted everyone to be gay. And I'm not joking. When they tried pushing gay communism on third world countries and even the United States, it created a massive backlash. In the U.S., when corporate institutions adopted this, whether it was through mandate or I think it was more emergent, but it may be a combination of powerful interests saying, okay, let's roll with it, and social media pushing it. When you take a look at the trends across all major media newspapers all over the world, at the end of the 2000s, 2008, 2009, racism, white supremacy, sexism all skyrocketed in every single newspaper. Once the woke critical theory emerged, a major backlash erupted across many of these countries, including Europe and the United States.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that they were like, our forced sterilization projects aren't working, they're getting upset? And then the guy's like, have you tried making them gay? And then they're like, want less population
I think
growth.
The Malthusians, for those that are not familiar, Malthusians have been around, I believe, since the 70s, believing that there would eventually come to be too many people, so they had to do whatever they could to stop people from reproducing. And, you know, Bill Gates wants to reduce population growth and things like this. And so one of the strategies is to discourage sex by any means and encourage non-reproductive sex.
That is not far off from Catharism.
What is that?
It was a medieval heresy of the church that was basically the material world in and of itself is evil. Creation is evil. But existence in and of itself does not have to be evil. So they encouraged people to have sex but not reproduce, to be hedonist, things like that. And the Catholic Church stamped it out extremely aggressively.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Massacred about 7,000 people, including other Catholics at Bazir, because they were like, the exact quote is, I believe, kill them all, God will recognize his own.
Let me play a little bit more of this liberal world order stuff.
System that promotes order in that most countries that buy into it respect the borders of other countries and seek to resolve their differences peacefully. It was developed in an effort to avoid repeating the major man-made disasters of the first half of the 20th century, the Great Depression, and 2 world wars. Following World War II, the United States, along with several other countries, started drafting an aspirational blueprint for what later became known as the Liberal World Order by establishing certain international institutions. The United Nations was built to promote peace between countries. The World Bank would support global economic development. And the International Monetary Fund and the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which later became the World Trade Organization, would support investment and trade between countries. While these institutions provided the blueprint for the liberal world order, the system was really powered by the United States.
So in other words, the U.S. said, okay, everybody, we're the big stick in the room, so we're going to do what we want, and you better do it too, or else. Yeah. And what happens to individuals who defy the liberal economic order and the World Bank? Well, by coincidence, they just end up having revolutions. It's a crazy thing that just happens in these countries. Or for some reason, they end up being evil.
I can hardly
believe their own people and need to be killed.
Like
I
Russia.
hardly believe it.
The problem with the liberal economic order and the reason it didn't work in totality was because of the Soviet Union. They could never get in there and disrupt it until the late 80s. Then you see this oligarchical revolution in the Soviet Union, shattering it and making it business opportunities. But the problem is, at that point, the communism and the ideology had spread to China, and China in the late 40s had their own revolution against this crap. Shortly after World War II, they basically, for 100 years before the end of World War II, we were talking about this before the show, there's what was called the Opium Wars. The British, the East India Company was basically selling opium into China, 1830s, 1840s, poisoning their populace, destroying their intelligence, making them agrarian. Basically, the Chinese revolted and said, we want opium to be illegal. Well, the British came in with their advanced weaponry and stomped them down. Said, no, it's not. So 5 years later, the Chinese rose up again. The British and the French went in, stomped them down completely, and said opium's going to be legal in China. For 100 years, they call it the century of humiliation. This was like a call of the Chinese Communist Revolution. We're not going to put up with this British humiliation anymore. These unfavorable treaties that we were forced to sign, and so now they're giving it back to us with the fentanyl. I mean, this war is still going on.
They're giving it to the United States because of what the British did. What are you talking about?
I believe,
man?
Yes. Now they want to destroy our what do they call brain drain? They want to create brain drain in the United States so we can't industrialize properly for the 21st century.
I don't think that it has a whole lot to do with like getting revenge on the British by attacking the United States. I do think that the United States and China are rivals. It's not one of those things like the way that the former administration used to articulate it. They would say that we were partners, or that we were in friendly competition. I do think that it's actually not friendly competition, but I don't think that it has much to do with the way that England treated China 100 years ago.
I'll be more clear. I think that it's not that they're like have a personal grudge. It's that they look at what's the arcing power structure on Earth right now. It's the liberal economic order. Let's destroy that with the same technique that was used against us. Let's poison their populace through opium.
They're doing a very specific ultra nationally capitalist thing right now.
Yes.
And that's kind of, I think, their main way. Fentanyl is probably being used to hit us, but the way China is doing things is that they are putting their tentacles into South America and Africa and the Middle East through the Belt and Road Initiative. And what they plan to do is offer these countries more than they could ever possibly repay in infrastructure and things like that. And then when those countries default on their debt, well, now China gets something back somehow. What is it? It's their natural resources. It's that China gets to build military bases. China might even get to take over their governments. So China's doing something very insidious to extend its empire into the world that the United States has basically propped up with aid for not hundreds of years, but decades now. And they're trying to usurp that from us while at the same time poisoning us from behind.
When I'm looking at the two threats on Earth right now, I feel like the Communist Chinese Party and their expansion is deeply concerning. Like if they're building up a military secretly, that could be a big problem for.
They're not doing it
attacks.
secretly.
Not secret.
Well,
They're doing a huge military
there
building.
are things we know about, but maybe there's things we don't know about too. We don't know. We wouldn't know. But then,
Fair enough.
Then there's also the Middle Eastern stuff, and I keep looking for a linchpin. I think it's the Russians. Like ultimately, if there was a global fight, whoever Russia sides with will win.
Why?
Because they're the landmass in the middle.
Most amount of nukes.
They've got. You can't invade Russia. I mean, you might be able to.
Well, no, I'm not.
Actually, you can easily invade Russia.
Maybe now with modern tech. Back in the day, you'd freeze on the battlefield, but
That's always been the challenge. But with modern tech and the fact that they have a large landmass and the population is relatively small compared to their landmass.
But they are like you mentioned, highly militarized, massive society with
More nukes than anybody
huge
else.
army. And red, white, and blue, baby. Like it's not the time on the world to
146 million people.
Yep.
But they have more landmass than Pluto.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But what's interesting is I used to kind of think that way too, where it's like, man, Russia's like this big threat. And then the Ukraine secret operation happened. And I feel like that just really put things into perspective in modern day because there's so many people, when I talk about like the oncoming war and what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, what's happening Israel and Iran, there's a lot of people that I think they envision this new war to be like, hey, we're storming beaches again, we're dropping off all these troops, etc. But I think that this next war, if it evolves into that, and it's looking like it is, it's going to look a lot more like what Ukraine just did to Russia. And what frightens me really is all these people that just came in the last 4 years with open borders. And what kind of drone technology were they sneaking in? What kind of drone technology are they building with stuff already here in America? And so we were talking about this earlier, right? I've been covering the LA protests since last Friday. And there was one day specifically where the police were pushing back the protesters. And there was a car just stuck there. And it was on because you can see the exhaust pipe and it was, had the exhaust coming out of it. And the police were telling it, hey, you got to move. They were like, roll down your window. You got to get this thing out of here. And just for a split second, I was like, this thing's about to blow up right now. This thing's a bomb. You got Laura Loomer. She's been warning about like, hey, stay out of the cities this weekend. I think something's bad's about to happen. Obviously, we've got global conflict. You got Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who said that she has text messages from Intel saying that she knows for a fact that there's going to be bad actors going into the cities and causing mayhem. And so that's all it takes. There was actually there was a guy that threw a Molotov cocktail at police in LA, and I captured it. That guy ended up being an illegal. So
who wants to make a bet? I'll make a gentleman's bet. I doubt anyone in the room will take it. That within the next week or two, there will be an attack on Americans from some kind of Iranian actor.
Iranian actor?
Yeah.
The next week or two?
Or that's what it would be told to us, you mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's going to be like the headline?
No.
I didn't speculate anything beyond.
Okay.
There's going to be. So who wants to take that bet that it would not happen?
In the next week or two? I'm tempted just because it's such a short time window.
Considering that Israel is bombing Iran right now.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not.
For the warmonger interests, they need only that tinder that has been laid for years to be ignited, which is, we have been told because of Joe Biden that there are Iranian-backed influences, insurgents, and terrorists who have entered the United States. Mm-hmm. And what would happen now if a bomb went off in a U.S. city and they said it was a guy who came through the border and is Iranian? MAGA would immediately say, this proves it. We were right the whole time. Joe Biden did this. Iran is at fault and attacked us. Now we have to go to war.
The only way
I agree with that.
I would only believe it if the Iranian government claimed it was their attack at this point. But even then, that could be a fake claim. I don't know what to believe.
Right. The media reports will just say they claimed others. I'm just saying, if there really is an interest in the U.S. getting involved in the war, the tinder has been set.
There has to be an attack.
I discussed this with Secretary Noem. Are there terrorists who have entered the southern border? Absolutely. Joe Biden left it open. So now the narrative is already planted and the logic is there. Should an attack happen, it's 2 plus 2. It's, we knew they came in. It's been a big problem. It's why we wanted the border secured. Yep. It's Biden's fault, and Trump is the hero who's going to rectify it.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember that video of there was an independent journalist that was filming down at the border under President Biden, and there was this guy. He might have had like an Arabian accent. I'm not really sure, but he was telling the videographer, he's like, "Oh, you don't know who I am? Don't worry. Pretty soon, you'll know who I am." You remember that video?
Yes, I remember.
Right? So he was warning them Americans because he knew, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to post you. I've got your face. I'm going to post you." And the guy was kind of like egging him on. He's like, "Oh, do you know who I am?" And the videographer's like, "No, I have no idea." He's like, "Pretty soon, you and your people are going to know exactly who I am." So I mean, the stage, I guess, for lack of a better word, is kind of set already. The tinder's already there, Tim. Right? Yeah. And all it's going to take is, we've got no King's Day tomorrow. I'm getting from sources we got LAPD sources texting me, people that work in these offices, saying we're going to be completely overwhelmed tomorrow. We don't have enough manpower for even just the small cities, let alone the big LA proper in downtown LA.
Let's set aside any even conspiratorial thinking on this matter. Iran is pissed. They're threatening retaliation against the United States for our involvement in the Israel-Iran war, and we are supposed to have millions of people marching in the streets tomorrow across the country. Yep. That is a perfect opportunity for our enemies, in all seriousness. Now,
I don't think they're that stupid.
They are.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this earlier, and I was thinking, I mentioned this in one of the morning segments. How come criminals get caught so stupidly? And I'm like, oh, because if they were smart, they wouldn't be criminals. They'd make money in a relatively easy way. Iran is in the position they're in because they're not that smart.
That's fair.
You know, so, but also people are emotional. They may be thinking, you know what? We're going to lose, but who cares? We're going to make sure the world hears us. It's like that. Let's do a pop culture reference. When Ivan Vanko says to Tony Stark at the beginning of Iron Man 2, when you make God bleed, the sharks will come. There are people that know. I mean, these are people who kill themselves. They will not see the fruits of their attack. So I wouldn't put it past Iran to actually say, let's take the opportunity to attack Americans. However, that being said, my point is I also believe I wouldn't put it past U.S. intel to be like, this is a perfect opportunity to false flag Iran.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.